FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com.
On the internet.
KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket. This is Adam Carriker on The Ticket.
Position right of the quarterback, out of the shotgun, first and 20. Jailbreak screen in the air. It is tipped. It is intercepted by Carriker at the Missouri 21-yard line.
Live from the heart of Lincoln, America, 8-year NFL vet and All-American defensive lineman Adam Carriker.
Shotgun snap to Everett. He's got the left arm going, and now he's got a whole lot of Adam Carriker who rips him down inside the 25-yard line.
On 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Here's your host, Adam Carriker.
Welcome everybody into Adam Carriker on The Ticket. My, oh my, what a weekend of Husker sports it was. It's an exciting time to be a Husker fan. Nebraska sports is doing awesome. It's kind of like one program's doing well, another one does well, from women's basketball to men's basketball to indoor track and field, which didn't get a lot of pub this past weekend. I want to give them a shout out throughout this show, to wrestling, to baseball, to all the Husker sports, kind of like that old saying, high tide raises all ships, ladies and gentlemen. So here's the show topics on the docket for today. Women's basketball's epic run through the Big Ten tournament. Men's basketball poised to make a potential run in the Big Ten tournament. Also the NCAA tournament. Who knows? Women's basketball's got that same opportunity as well coming up in the near future. Husker wrestling at the Big Ten championships. 9 wrestlers qualified to go on to nationals. All right, including Nash Hutmaker was one of those guys, but I'm going to talk about him, but the 8 other wrestlers as well, and the overall performance at the Big Ten championships. And men's and women's indoor track and field both finish in the top 25 to close out the indoor season. All right, this is Adam Carriker on the ticket. I hope you had a phenomenal weekend. I hope you have a great start. Hope it's not too bad of a case of the Mondays, because, ladies and gentlemen, as you know, every Monday, every Friday, live, noon to 1 p.m. Central Time is yours truly. Grab your lunch, sit down here, join me, not only Mondays and Fridays, but Tuesdays and Thursdays. Okay, Tuesdays, we got the Carriker Chronicles also. I'm going to be interviewing Alexis Markowski, and we're going to be putting that out Tuesday as well. Thursday's the Big Ten show, where we talk all things Big Ten sports. And then on Wednesday, my Husker brother, a former All-American, a guy who, one of the few quarterbacks to play as a true freshman here at the University of Nebraska, Mr. Steve Taylor, noon to 1 p.m. Central Time. It's the fastest hour in radio each and every day here on 93.7 The Ticket. All right, let's start off with Nebraska women's basketball. Now, this is the team that finished the season, the regular season in the Big Ten tournament, okay, with a 22-11 record. They had a great 4-day run in the Big Ten tournament. All right, last Thursday, 64-56 win over Purdue. This is the second time they beat the Boilermakers in the past 2 weeks. Beat them by an average of 10 points between those two contests on Friday. It was the number 5 seed, the Huskers, versus the number 4 seed, okay, Michigan State. Now, Michigan State was actually a 4-point favorite going into this game. All right, the Huskers end up winning by double digits, 73-61 over Michigan State. Then they took on Maryland, the Terrapins, the Mighty Turtles, all right, on Saturday, who had they didn't just beat the number 1 seed Ohio State. If you watch that game, it was shockingly, with all due respect, a beat down of the number 1 seed in the entire Big Ten tournament, the Ohio State Buckeyes. Maryland took it to them, 82-61. Okay. And on Friday as well, and that set up the game with the Huskers playing the Terrapins on Saturday. Nebraska looked good. They didn't just win games. They looked good throughout this entire Big Ten tournament. Obviously, Sunday, the finish wasn't quite what anybody would have wanted, but we'll get to that. Okay, when you talk about multiple double-digit wins, when you talk about they were probably an underdog, at least 2 of those games. I know at least 2, Michigan State and Iowa. Okay, and coming out with multiple wins, multiple double-digit wins, playing 4 straight days is no easy feat. All right, they had a heck of a run. So the Huskers play the Terrapins on Saturday, another double-digit win, 78-68. Then they take on our good buddies, our friends, our homies, all right, from Iowa, all right, who had just trounced Michigan, by the way, all right, 95-68. And then they took on the Hawkeyes, our Huskers did on Sunday for the Big Ten Tournament Championship. Now, the Hawkeyes came in, not just a favorite, they came in a 16.5-point favorite. And this was a great game. Not the outcome, obviously, that the players wanted or Husker fans wanted, but I don't know how you could be anything but incredibly proud of this team, their tournament run, how they've done this year as a whole. I remember chatting with Amy Williams about 6 weeks ago, somewhere along those lines, about a month and a half ago, and she even said right here on the ticket when I spoke with her, she said, "We haven't hit our stride yet. We haven't played our best basketball yet. We're trying to put that together." Okay, and I remember asking her, "Well, how do you get to that point? How do you get it to come together?" And she really talked about, okay, the leaders on this team taking that leadership role and kind of leading the team and leading the charge, and the younger players improving and catching up and doing things of that nature. And you're going to see, I talk about Markowski as we're going to go along here. I'm going to talk about Jazz Shelley. I'm going to talk about a freshman that stepped up, had 21 points on Sunday versus Iowa. Everything she basically laid out in that interview, if you haven't had a chance to check it out, go back and check it out, basically happened as time went along. Now, when we talked about it, she had no way of knowing it was going to happen. Obviously, that was the goal. That's what she was trying to achieve. But Coach Williams was able to get the team to do that, okay, especially in the Big Ten tournament. Now, Nebraska came out playing well on Sunday. The Huskers did. All right, they had a 13-3 lead right out the gate. They came out ready to play. And I thought it was interesting because the announcers at one point in the game were talking about how Iowa, man, they had just played. This is their third game in 3 days, and that's got to be tiring. And I'm like, you got to point out that this is our fourth game in 4 days. I mean, don't let facts get in the way of a good story, I guess. So at one point, the Huskers led by 13. Iowa never led by more than 5. That was their largest lead of the game. Okay. Now, the Hawkeyes had a slight edge in shooting from the field. All right. And Nebraska had the slight edge in shooting from 3-point range. The Huskers shot 41.2% from beyond the arc. The Hawkeyes 39.4% from downtown. Now, Lincoln's own Alexis Markowski, all right, led the Lady Huskers in scoring with 23 points on Sunday. And it was interesting because early on, the announcers were talking about how Caitlin Clark was struggling and she was having a tough time getting going, and it just wasn't one of her days on Sunday. It's interesting to me because the last 2 games, there was a stretch during the last 2 games that Nebraska and Iowa played each other. Clark is the best player in America. I mean, she's going to be the number 1 pick in the WNBA draft. She's going to immediately make a gigantic impact wherever she goes. Okay. Now, there was a stretch, a point in the last 2 games between Our Lady Huskers, Lady Hawkeyes, where Caitlin Clark was 1 of 14 shooting. So this wasn't just Sunday. Okay. With only 2 points. Okay. And on Sunday, at a certain point in the game, she did finally get hot as the game went along in the second half. It's hard to control, to hold down a player of that level for 2 straight games, like Nebraska did for basically a game and a half. All right. She only had 4 points, not a few minutes before halftime. She was 0 of 9 from beyond the arc. So when you say she was off on Sunday, yeah, that happens. Okay. Shooters have their good days, their bad days. But when you start to look back to the previous time that Nebraska played Iowa and Pinnacle Bank Arena and how she struggled late in that game, you got to eventually give credit to Nebraska's defense is what I'm getting at. That's my point. It wasn't just she was having a rough time shooting or getting going. Nebraska's defense, they had a great game plan for her. Okay. And it really carried over from the previous time the Huskers played them in Pinnacle Bank Arena to Sunday in the Big Ten Tournament Championship game. Nebraska played Caitlin Clark tough, had a great defensive game plan. Okay. Now, as I mentioned, she only had about 4 points with only a couple minutes to go before halftime. She was 0 of 9 from 3-point range at that point in the game. All right. And it was a great game to watch. It was entertaining. There was 2 teams laying it all out on the line. All right. The Lady Huskers have 1 Big Ten tournament championship in their history. The Hawkeyes were going for their 3rd consecutive Big Ten tournament championship. All right. And after 4 quarters, went into overtime, tied 77-77. Now, what allowed Iowa to get back in the game, okay, was Nebraska had a stretch of about 6 minutes or so in the second half where they only scored 2 points. They struggled to find good shots, get open shots. There was a point where they were shooting a lot of threes, some contested shots as well, and they had a hard time getting those open shots. And so they struggled during that stretch. Maybe give Iowa some credit for finding some things that had allowed them to have some defensive success during that stretch. Amy Williams calls timeout. The Huskers are able to adjust. Okay. But that time frame did allow the Hawkeyes to make a little bit of a run, go into overtime, tied 77-77. As you probably know, Iowa ended up winning 94-89. Now, This is an Iowa team that freaking scores. They score like an NBA team. Now, normally college basketball scores are not as high as NBA scores for two reasons. Number one, the game is shorter. College basketball games are 40 minutes. Okay, men's and women's. 2 20-minute halves for men, 4 10-minute quarters for women. And NBA games, 4 12-minute quarters, 48 minutes. So more time, more points. I do think this isn't a shot at NBA players. Okay, I do think the college basketball players, men and women, try to play better defense more consistently. I don't know that you can always say that in the NBA. The emphasis is more on offense than on defense and players' mindsets. And let's be honest, the more points you score, the more money you're going to make. Okay, there's a business aspect to that as well. So for a collegiate basketball team, men's or women's, okay, Iowa's basketball team to average 90 points per game during the regular season and 95 in the Big Ten tournament, that's crazy. They can score. And when you've got the nation's leading scorer, the nation's leading player when it comes to assists, and Caitlin Clark, you're going to have some offensive success for obvious reasons. All right. Now, again, the Hawkeyes ended up winning this game, but what a phenomenal effort throughout not just Sunday, but the entire Big Ten tournament from the women's basketball team. What a coaching job that Amy Williams did. It literally, go check out that interview from 4 to 6 weeks ago, somewhere in there. It's on the ticket. Everything she talked about, from the leaders on the team stepping up, and I would say Markowski and Shelley had to be two of the forefront, from the younger players stepping up, okay, and making an impact as well. Okay, that happened throughout the rest of the season into the Big Ten tournament. Okay, that was something that made a big difference. I mean, you think about freshman Natalie Potts putting in 21 points on Sunday against Iowa for the Huskers. That absolutely made a big impact as the season went along. The Big Ten tournament went along. Now, we talk about the all Big Ten tournament team. All right, 40% of that team is Huskers. 2 of the 5 players belong to Nebraska. You got Jazz Shelley. You got Alexis Markowski. All right, 2 of the 5 players named to the all-tournament team for the Big Ten tournament. All right. Now, you look at Alexis individually, and again, I'm going to be interviewing her. We're going to be talking here on the ticket tomorrow. Okay, so tune in tomorrow, again, during the fastest hour on radio, noon to 1 p.m. Central Time. Grab some lunch, join us, hear what she has to say. All right, we're going to talk about some other things, but I'm looking forward to chatting with her. She averaged over 16 points per game during this Big Ten tournament. She averaged a double-double. Okay, over 11 rebounds per game. You look at Jazz Shelley. She broke the record for the most three-point shots made in the Big Ten tournament, in the Big Ten tournament's history. She averaged 21 points per game and led the Huskers in scoring during the tournament. Through the 4 games throughout the tournament. Okay, she had a great all-around Big Ten tournament performance. And then, again, freshman Natalie Potts really stepped up, 21 points versus Iowa on Sunday as well. Couldn't be prouder. Watching them, especially the second half of the year, watching them improve, get better, the effort this past weekend. I mean, if they're not in the women's NCAA tournament after this, I don't know what to say. They should be, and I can't wait to see what they can do at that point. Okay, wherever they end up seated. All right, you look at men's basketball. Now, they finished with that magical, the 22-9, that magical 22-win total. I spoke with multiple people. It was my opinion as well that if they got to 22, they should be in the tournament. I think we know they're in the tournament at this point. But they got that 22 wins before the Big Ten tournament, okay? Regular season record, all right, within the conference was 12-8, 22-9 overall, 18-1 at home, 3-8 away from home, 1-0 neutral sites. Going to find out how they're going to do on the neutral sites this upcoming weekend as well throughout the men's basketball tournament here for the Big Ten Conference. All right, the end of the season with a 2-game win streak and won 6 of their last 7 games. Now, not the toughest opponents under God's hot sun to close the season, but you can only play who you're scheduled to play. You win those games, and they won a lot of them pretty convincingly. Like, they look like they're rolling going into this Big Ten tournament. And if anybody's questioning, well, they weren't the toughest teams on planet Earth, well, they're going to get a chance to prove themselves against the best teams in the Big Ten in the upcoming tournament. All right. Now, the Huskers beat Michigan again on Sunday, again by double digits, led by 30 points from Keisei Tominaga. They beat the Wolverines 85-70. The Huskers' field goal shooting percentage was 57.9% compared to the Wolverines, which was 39.7%. Nebraska will be the 3rd seed headed into the Big Ten tournament this upcoming weekend, which means they get Wednesday off from games, Thursday off from games. I'm sure they're going to be practicing, repping stuff, watching film, getting prepared for when they play on Friday. Now, the number 1 seed in the men's tournament is Purdue. Number 2 is Illinois. Okay. And the 4th seed is Northwestern. Okay, with Nebraska being that third seed. And like I mentioned, they pretty much locked down an NCAA tournament bid. The question is how well they do in this tournament depends on where they get seeded for the NCAA tournament. You look at the projections right now, they're anywhere from a 7 seed to a 9 seed. Okay, if they lose that first game, probably going to be right around that 9 seed range in the NCAA tournament. If they win a game or two, who knows how high they could climb. All right. And again, I've said it all year. This is a scary team because they've shown they can beat Purdue and they can take Illinois on the road in their house into overtime. Okay, they beat Wisconsin, who's not one of the top 4 seeds, but still a pretty darn good basketball team. They've proven they can play with the best, so they can beat anybody on any given day. The question for them is, can they find that level of consistency? Can they handle success? And can they win and come back the next day and play at the same level with the same energy, with the same effectiveness? That's been the question all year. You can see when things don't go well and Hoiberg gets on them, they make those adjustments. So you got to give them credit for that. The biggest thing going forward is consistency. The most exciting way of finding a national champion in any sport under God's hot sun is March Madness. College basketball NCAA tournament. The worst way of finding a true national champion, okay, is probably the NCAA tournament because in basketball, anybody can beat anybody on any given day. I was at the state. I was at one of the basketball playoff games. Easy for me to say where I live, and literally 2 teams had played a week ago. One team beat the other by 15 points. In that playoff game, that rematch, it reversed. The team that won lost by 15 points. The team that lost the original game won by 15 points. Basketball is such a crazy game. Not only can you win or lose on any given day, you can lose by double digits on any given day. So you've got to show up day in and day out. And consistency is one of the hardest sports to do it in is basketball. I would argue also baseball is really hard because anybody can beat anybody. But that's what makes March Madness so crazy, so fun. Anybody can go on a run and anybody can get ousted early. It's about being consistent day in and day out. All right, let's get to Nebraska wrestling, little Nebraska baseball, talk a little track and field as well. Now, real quick, as always, before I forget, send your questions, your comments, your thoughts, your concerns. Otherwise, 402-464-5685. I always dedicate the last few minutes of this show, the last 8 to 10 minutes, Monday and Friday, my live shows, to answering people's questions. I call it the People segment. So again, 402-464-5685. Some of your questions, comments, concerns, thoughts. Otherwise, I will respond. I will get back to you. If you're watching on YouTube, you can send in your questions there as well. All right. Nebraska wrestling. Big Ten championships this past weekend. Now, they're currently the number 3 team in the country, finished 12-2 on the season. I thought it was interesting. The top 3 teams in the country are all Big Ten teams. Okay. Number 1, Penn State, 12-0. Number 2, Iowa, 12-2. Oklahoma State was number 2. They have a record of 14-1, but they're now number 4. So it goes number 1, Penn State in the country, number 2, Iowa, number 3, Nebraska, number 4, Oklahoma State. So obviously, the Big Ten tournament, the Big Ten championships kind of, resembled what the national rankings look like to a degree as well. Now, Husker wrestlers. There was 9 wrestlers that qualified to go on to nationals. Okay. And Nash Hutmaker was one of the first guys that popped up in my feed as I was trying to keep track of all these sports going on. I don't have enough TVs to watch baseball, race, baseball. And I was trying to keep track of track, and I was trying to keep track of multiple things, multiple sports going on as well. He's one of the first that I noticed that qualified to go to nationals. And I've talked about it before, but it's truly amazing. Okay. What he has done, not just in the aspect of doing multiple sports, which is tough enough to do in college to begin with. It's why you rarely see it. It's why you hardly ever see it at the professional level. All right. Most people are going to think of 2 guys, Bo Jackson, Deion Sanders. That's really about it. Okay. As far as people are going to stick out in your mind, there's been a couple of other people who've done it, just maybe not as well known. College is really hard to do as well. But beyond that, he hadn't wrestled in 3 or 4 years. So think about the rustiness. Yes, he was undefeated, 4-time state champ, never lost, never really even in question in high school. But you don't do something for 3 or 4 years. And then you come back and you try to do it in an elite wrestling conference like the Big Ten Conference. Again, the top 3 teams in the country are from the Big Ten. That's hard. That's challenging. And then you got to drop, 30, 40 pounds, which is what he had to drop in order to be able to wrestle. Okay, that's challenging in of itself. And then it's an individual sport. This is not a sport where you can go out there and you're a center next to a guard and you got a beast at a nose tackle and be like, hey, bump the guard next to you. Hey, let's go laser, laser, laser. In other words, we're going to slide to the left. You're going to help me double team this guy. No. To put it in football terms for wrestling, you got to take on that big nose guard all by yourself. You ain't got no help. They're blitzing five O-linemen in, and you got 5 guys in a route. It's one-on-one across the board. Everything that Hutmaker was doing, it was him by himself with nobody else out there to help him, okay, during actual matches. That makes it incredibly impressive as well. Now, I forget who mentioned it. Somebody said wrestling is probably the most difficult individualistic sport that there is. That's debatable. It's arguably the most difficult individualistic sport. I mean, I know there's others. You got tennis, you got swimming, you got all sorts of other sports. I used to know the rifle coach in Nebraska. Okay, all these sports. Anytime you're out there by yourself, it's challenging. Table tennis, ping pong, that's challenging. Okay, it's one of the few barroom games I will actually say, bring it on. You want some, come get some. I'm awful at pool. I absolutely suck at pool. I also don't like it. I think it's slow and boring. I need something fast-paced. I like air hockey. I like ping pong. I'm slightly above average at air hockey. I'm pretty good at ping pong. Okay. It's tough when you're doing something by yourself and you can't rely on anyone else and you haven't done it for years and you had to lose a bunch of weight. So it just makes it more impressive. That's all I'm saying. Okay, so shout out to Nash for qualifying for nationals. Now, there's 8 other wrestlers that did it as well. All right. Silas Allred, Lenny Pinto, Ridge Lovett, who also won a Big Ten championship. Okay. Peyton Robb, Ontrell Taylor, Caleb Smith, Jacob Van D, and Brock Hardy. So shout out to everyone who competed at the Big Ten championships this past weekend for Nebraska's wrestling team. Congratulations to everyone who qualified to go on. Congratulations to the Big Ten champions as well. All right, the individuals who won those, even if they went to other schools, I'll shout them out too, I guess. It's an incredible accomplishment. All right, and I'm going to keep track of Nebraska wrestling going forward as always. Okay, again, I was blessed to talk with Mark Manning about a month ago. He does a phenomenal job. To me, he's like under the radar. He needs to get way more credit for the years and years and years and years and success that he's had here at Nebraska, from championships to All-Americans that he's put out. Done a phenomenal job. All right, Nebraska baseball, 9-4 on the season, 2-1 at home, 6-1 away. Hey, we have a Nebraska team with a winning record on the road right now. All right, 1-2 neutral site games. Now, they won their last 2 games versus South Alabama over the weekend to get the series win. They have played 3 series so far this year. They're 3-0 when it comes to winning the overall series. They've won all 3 of those series. Okay. And they're 8-2. 3 series, combined 10 games. Within those 3 series that they played, they're 8-2. Okay. And if you think about it, a lot of that comes down to adjustments. It's kind of like a best of 7 series in Major League Baseball playoffs, or best of 7 in the NHL playoffs, Stanley Cup playoffs, or it's best of 7 in the NBA playoffs. It's not what you do in one game. There are a lot of times an NBA team will win by 20, lose by 20 the next playoff game because of the adjustments. How do you adjust? How do you bounce back? How do you handle success? How do you handle adversity? What do the coaches see? What do they adjust? How do the players handle those adjustments or not handle them? So within the course of a series, if you're having success, a lot of that has to do with adjustments being made by the coaches and the players actually implementing them over the course of the series as well. All right. Now, again, this Nebraska baseball team is one of the toughest strengths of schedule so far this year. Okay, one of the top RPIs as well. It's a young season, very young season so far. A lot of ball left to play. Good start so far for the Huskers on the baseball diamond this year. All right, NCAA indoor track and field championships were held in Boston this last weekend. Multiple Huskers have earned all Big Ten honors and some sort of All-American honors this year on the indoor track and field, both men and women's teams. Okay, over the course of this winter. And I want to give them all a shout out as well. And shout out to both the men's and women's indoor track and field teams as they both left Boston ranked in the top 25 as the indoor season closes. I can't wait to see what these teams do when the outdoor season gets rolling as well. And I want to give a shout out to all Husker sports and all Husker athletes who compete and lay it out on the line and give it everything they've got. Okay. And I will share a quick story before I head into break. So I'm the youngest I have an interesting family tree and family history. I won't dive into it. Maybe I will at a later date. I've always said I have 1.5 siblings. Why? Because I have 2 half sisters and a half brother. And I am by far the baby. Okay. My 1/2 sister, 13 years older than me. We have the same mom. My 1/2 brother, we have the same dad, also 13 years older than me. All right. They don't like it when I call them grandma and grandpa, but I do. And then I have a sister named Gina, who's 5 years older than me. Grew up in Omaha, raised in Omaha, and she went to Nebraska Wesleyan really fast. And she had some records in Nebraska Wesleyan when she was done running track. Now, I haven't looked lately to see if they're still standing. I should actually go check it out. I will never forget, because I probably was around her the most growing up, even though we grew up in different households, but just the most, while it wasn't a ton, simply because she was the closest in age to me. The other 2 were 13 years apart from me. She was 5, but she was always better at everything than me. It drove me nuts. Just drove me nuts. And I'll never forget, I was about 10, and I had just discovered that I was pretty fast. I was winning and beating almost everybody in every race that I was doing at the ripe old age of 10. And then I challenged her one day. I challenged her to a race, and she absolutely smoked me. She was 15, I was 10, and it wasn't close. She absolutely smoked me. And ever since then, I've wanted a rematch. So Gina, if you're out there and you're listening, first of all, whenever we argue, I'm right. Maybe not, but we're just going to go with that. Also, I challenge you to that rematch. It's only 29 years later, and neither one of us are probably, especially me, in any sort of shape to do it. So we're going to keep it to like 20 yards or less, but I'm challenging you to this race. All right, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed that first segment. When we come back, I'll be joined by Kent Pavelka, one of the best to ever do it. Don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be right back.
The countdown is on for the biggest tournament in college basketball. The clock is ticking, and a whopping $1 million is waiting for you. Warhorse Festival of Games is giving you a chance to earn the bragging rights of a lifetime. Oh, and one massive jackpot. Will your bracket beat them all? Here's how it works. Rack up bonus bracket entries by hitting the slots and placing sports and racing wagers starting March 1st at Warhorse Casino. Lock in your winning picks online after the teams are announced March 17th. Then activate your brackets in person at Warhorse Casino Lincoln by the 24th. The best brackets will win prizes each week, and a perfect bracket puts $1 million in your pocket. Get all the dates and details at warhorsecasino.com. Plus even more ways to score big. Only at Warhorse Casino Lincoln. Minutes from downtown at Highway 77 and West Denton Road. Must be 21 or older to gamble. Gambling problem? Call 1-833-BET-OVER.
Biggest question people have is, how do I start the process? What is the process? I want to build a new home, but I don't know what the first step is.
Bob Benish is the founder and president of Aspen Builders, online at aspenbuildersinc.com.
The first step is make an appointment. Come on into my office. Let's sit around the table. Let's talk about what you're looking for, what your needs are, what your budget might be. And let's come up with some answers on what we're going to build, where we're going to build it, and what it's going to cost. So now is really the time to be contacting us to get an appointment to get the job done before school starts. Once you find a good lot, let's get it reserved, because there's a very limited number of lots in this town. And then start designing that floor plan that's going to be perfect for you. Next thing you know, we're moving dirt.
Make your dream home a reality and call Aspen Builders at 423-6811. Online at aspenbuildersinc.com. Your home is waiting at Aspen Builders.
Southeast Community College invites you to check out our spaces ahead of your official campus visit. Our virtual campus tours let you see our campuses and learn more about our programs of study. Then you can schedule your individual visit in person or virtually. Virtual tours of our campuses in Beatrice, Lincoln, or Milford, and our learning centers are online at southeast.edu/visit SCC. SCC, your path to possible.
You never think cancer will happen to you. I smoked for over 40 years. My doctor recommended that I get annual lung cancer screening. They were able to catch my cancer at stage 1. It's never too late to quit. Even if you're still smoking, you need to ask your doctor about annual lung cancer screening. Just 30 minutes a year could save your life.
Call the Nebraska Tobacco Quit Line, 1-800-QUIT-NOW, 1-800-784-8669. Paid for by Tobacco Free Nebraska. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Action Plumbing, Heating, Air, and Electric is the call I make when I have a need for plumbing services. Whether it's for my home or office, if I need a repair to a water heater, softener, or even my garbage disposal, I know I can count on Action to help. In one simple call, their amazing customer service team promptly schedules a service call, often getting to my needs within a day. Action delivers honest, quality services we can count on. To learn more, visit actionlincoln.com.
My dream was to work in commercial banking, but it required a college degree and I didn't have one. I found out that Doane had classes for adult learners on the Lincoln campus and online. So I earned my bachelor's degree, and 5 months later, I landed my dream job. I decided to continue my education, and now I'm working on my MBA at Doane. For me, the Doane experience has been life-changing.
Are you working in or looking to get into the electrical construction industry? The electrical workers of Local Union 265 are now hiring licensed journeymen and apprentices and are offering great pay and benefits. Call Mike at 402-875-1034 to apply. Start your electrical career today.
People always ask, what are Jake and Sip like when they're off the air? Well, the answer probably won't surprise you.
Hey, Jake, your Honda's looking a little dirty.
Says the guy whose license plate is barely visible.
I mean, do you even care about that thing anymore?
It gets a little uncomfortable. Now, that's when I jump in.
Hey, whoa. Mark, did you get a new car?
Nope, just took my car down to Nebraska Auto Detail. Joe and the staff made the outside and the inside look amazing. Maybe you guys need to go. Okay, wise guy.
Settle down, Jake.
Book your appointment today at nebraskaautodetail.com.
Mosaic is a nonprofit, whole-person healthcare organization that embraces God's call and relentlessly pursues opportunities that empower people with diverse needs to live their best lives. Mosaic in Southeast Nebraska, serving Lincoln and Beatrice, would like to invite you to their monthly Discover the Possibilities tour events. Events are held on the third Wednesday of every month and are a great way to understand Mosaic's mission. To RSVP, please contact Melindy at 402-429-0088 or visit mosaicinfo.org/Southeast Nebraska.
Life is all about balance, so how about a little sweet and a little heat to make your week? At Wings and Rings, we're introducing our all-new Hot Honey menu for the month of March. Try our one-of-a-kind house-made sauce on the brand-new Hot Honey chicken sandwich or our Hot Honey shrimp and slaw. And of course, you can get it on the traditional boneless or smoked wings that have made Wings and Rings your go-to neighborhood spot. But don't wait, Hot Honey is only here until April 1st. So stop by Wings and Rings at one of our 2 Lincoln locations today, on O Street and on Village Lane.
This is Monster Jam. Witness big air, backflips, and all-out racing. Monster Jam, as big as it gets. Brought to you by the original Super Glue. Stop by your local participating Westlake Ace Hardware locations for your $10 savings coupon. Restrictions may apply. See store for details. Coming to Pinnacle Bank Arena March 29th and 30th. You're listening to Adam Carriker on The Ticket on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Adam Carriker on The Ticket. And I am honored to be joined by an absolute legend, a man who's been doing what he's doing in one way, shape, or form or another for 50 years. All right. Grew up in Northeast Lincoln. He started his radio career, starting calling men's basketball games in 1974. All right, did Nebraska football games for years, over 22 years, 74 to 96. Basically been the voice of Nebraska basketball for nearly 4 decades at this point. He's been doing it again since 2006 up until modern times. Mr. Kent Pavelka, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good, Adam. Boy, that's quite a resume there. And the only problem with it is that I missed you doing football, right? We crossed paths, but I wasn't in the booth when you were playing. So that's the only thing that you didn't include, and that's a disappointment.
Well, it's because I wanted you to do it, but I didn't want to bring it up because it makes me sad. But the thing is, you've been doing it for so long, so well, so many different things. I mean, I hope I did it justice because you're a true legend, the voice of Husker basketball for so long now. Like I said, almost 4 decades, almost 40 years. All right, talk to me. Nebraska basketball. They had Fred Hoiberg's best season, one of the best seasons they've had in quite a while. What have you seen from the team this year that's made them help them be so much better this year and going forward into this Big Ten tournament and into the NCAA tournament after that?
A complicated answer to that question, it involves a lot of different things. When I first saw this group in the summer, in July, when they were, they're allowed to practice a little bit in the summer, the new guys popped at me immediately. And I could see the potential that this group had in terms of talent. They've got what they need. And I could tell that right away, mixed with what was coming back. And then, you combine that with what Coach Hoiberg is and what he's put together around him with coaching staff and the entire staff. And believe me, I'm intimately involved. I don't know X's and O's really, but I'm around the X's and O's. I can tell you the guy can coach. And he can coach to the extent that the players will take the coaching, because they've seen that it makes them better as individuals, and they've seen that it makes a really good team. I guess that would be my short answer, my elevator speech answer.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm joined on the Aloe Fiber VIP line by Kent Pavelka. All right, so talk to me about a guy like Keisei Tominaga. He can obviously shoot. He can obviously score. But what kind of impact does having a player like that on your team have for the entire team beyond just what he can do individually? Because it's got to create openings for other players and openings for other guys to score. And then if the defense stays spread out, then Keisei can light you up. If you focus on him, then the ball gets spread out. Just talk to me about the dynamic that he brings to the team as a whole.
Well, you explained it right there. I mean, he does all of that. He really does. And it's not every team has a guy who can light it up like he can. But yes, I mean, he makes everybody else better. If he gets too much attention, as you said, he everybody else has an opportunity, and he doesn't jack shots, not very many. Some he does. Coach lives with that, and you will with a guy like that. But by and large, he is one of those 8 pieces that he's got a team here where it's like a toolbox. So you got a tool. Every tool you need is in that toolbox. I mean, if you need something, he's got somebody on the bench who can give it to you, because they've all got these individual sets of skill sets. And I don't think anything is missing except maybe, you'd like to have another shooter and you'd like to have another big, but you can only play 8 guys. So, I think he's got it all, and I think this team has a chance to continue to play like they are and win some more games. I don't have any doubt about that.
Talk to me about how you think Keisei projects to the NBA. All right, where do you think he might go in the draft? How do you think he might fit into a team? Like, how does he project when it comes to his potential NBA career?
Adam, you're putting me between a rock and a hard place here, because I think it's an uphill struggle for him to be to make a roster, and I hope he proves me wrong. He's not electric quick. I mean, he is as good a shooter as you're going to find. A little streaky, but he's sneaky good, and I hope he proves me wrong. I think he'll make a lot of money, if not in the NBA, certainly probably in Japan. But that's not to diminish the quality of player that he is, because only the best of the best of the best will stick at that level.
Talk to me about Nebraska's bench, because you talked about 8 players, and that's kind of what it revolves around this year for them. But they've had players from the bench step up and be leading scorers in games and take over certain games here and there at points throughout the year. Okay, so talk to me about the role that this bench is going to play as we enter the Big Ten tournament. Now, they don't have to play 5 games in 5 days or 4 and 4 like the Lady Huskers just did, but they're going to have to play, if they want to get to Sunday, at least 3 in 3 days, and then the NCAA tournament. There's space in between games, but it can be exhausting over time. Talk to me about the role that this bench could possibly play.
Well, did go 9 deep before Eli Rice got hurt. I think he would have, had he not had that high ankle sprain, continued to log more minutes. That was the trajectory at the time, and they'd have 9 really good pieces by this time, but it's 8 right now. And I think one of the really great strategic moves, and it was accepted by Jamarcus Lawrence was when they decided he'd come off the bench rather than start at point guard, which moved Bryce Williams to point. And, Jamarcus has they didn't have him as that piece off the bench when he was starting. And I think anybody who's watched him play in a starting role versus coming off the bench sees that, that's kind of, in an ironic way, added a piece, even though the total was 8. It's still 8, but off the bench, he gives you what he gives you. And then you got C.J. Wilcher. I'm hoping that C.J. gets back to shooting it down like he was in the middle of the year. His percentages have not been as good of late, but, I mean, he gives you a guy that can really light it up, almost like C.J., or almost like Casey. And then the coach's son. If he weren't the coach's son, I think coach's sons get a bad rap. He's a really good player, and there isn't anybody in college basketball that is more of a pest on the floor defensively than Sam Hoiberg is. I mean, he just makes things happen. He's like a small Josiah Alec. So you got those 3 guys coming off the bench plus your starters. And, I think that at any given moment, if somebody's not giving you what you want, or if the team you're playing demands somebody else, I think you've got a move to make with those 8 players.
Talk to me. Coach Hoiberg's been here a while now. He's had a chance to build his program, and this team is obviously a result of that. In your mind, when you watch Fred Hoiberg and how he's coached over the past few years and in this season as well, what do you think he wants the identity of his basketball teams to be?
What you see is what you get. I think that this is the identity, and I just think you will see, hopefully over time, replacing pieces that give you the same kind of character of player. I think that was important. I mean, these guys. This is a group that, it's kind of cliche, but it's so true. You wouldn't believe the chemistry off the floor. And it's built around buy-in to wanting to win. But these guys get along. And I think you'll see as time goes on, he'll bring guys in like that. And I think you'll see as time goes on, they will identify players maybe on the mid-major level like they did this last year with Bryce and Rink, that others miss on, because I think he's got a great eye for that. I think that staff as combined has a great eye for that, what they will need next year based on who's not coming back. And so I think that just, wash, rinse, and repeat, it would be the ideal scenario. And as that happens, I think you'll incrementally see a little bit of improvement in terms of ability, and you can go in right now and recruit a player that maybe last year you couldn't, based on what this team has done. I mean, people are paying attention around the country, and so it's all good, man. I just think there's a tremendous future for Fred and his staff.
All right. How likely do you think it is that Nebraska men's basketball can make a similar run of the Big Ten tournament that Nebraska women's basketball just did? And when it comes to the NCAA tournament, is this the year we get our first NCAA tournament win?
I don't know, and I don't know, but I'm hopeful.
That's perfect answers. Perfect.
I give my left arm. I give my voice box if we could win an NCAA tournament game. I mean, I'd drop the mic if I had to trade that for a win. So, I don't want to get my hopes up. I don't want to get everybody's hopes up. I mean, don't be disappointed when the season ends. It's going to end, but maybe there's a little more magic left. I know that's the intention by this group, and I know that they're going to play loose, and they're going to play with a focus that will remind you of how they played at times at PBA, which, by the way, was the best arena in the Big Ten Conference this year for my money in terms of atmosphere. And I only say that because we didn't go to Purdue. I'd say Purdue year in and year out that is But TBA is right up there with them and with any arena in the country.
The home court advantage the Pinnacle Bank Arena has become is just absolutely awesome for the men's and women's basketball team. It's absolutely phenomenal. All right, man, you've been doing it a long time. What are some of your favorite memories from calling Nebraska basketball games from over the years?
Oh, man. Well, I suppose, when I first started, that was the biggest thrill of all, just to have the honor and the opportunity to broadcast Husker athletics, both in football and basketball, at the tender age of like 23 or 24. It was like a dream come true. I grew up wanting to do that, and here I am in the booth and at Memorial Stadium and at the Coliseum, of all places. We played at the Coliseum, folks, in 1974.
Yep.
So doing that as a young man, just in general, and then where did the time go? I mean, I spent a lifetime plugged into this. I mean, there were years I was gone, but don't think I wasn't attached. And so here I am, still hanging in there. But they win the NIT with Danny. That was a thrill, winning the Big 8 postseason tournament with that group in 1992, 93. Or was it 93, 94? I can't remember. Nobody's old enough to correct me.
I don't think anybody wants to correct you.
But this development that Fred has shown us has been a highlight for sure. I mean, folks it was as everybody knows, those first couple of years were a struggle. But to see him retool all this, to the degree that he has been as satisfying a thing as I've been around with Husker sports.
All right. I want to thank you for joining me, Kent. Nobody rocks a bow tie like you do. I just want you to know that. All right. And don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to pay a few bills, and then we'll be right back.
Go Hog Wild Pit Barbecue. It's $5.99 barbecue time. Hurry to Hog Wild for a complete barbecue meal that's only $5.99. Get a one-meat sandwich loaded with our award-winning barbecue, plus your choice of a classic side and drink for just $5.99. Upgrade your sandwich to beef brisket for just $1 more. Join us for lunch or dinner in Lincoln at 3210 Cornhusker Highway. Order online at GoHogWild.com. But don't be late, we close at 8.
Not many businesses can say they've made it 60 years, but Madsen's Bowling and Billiards can. With 12 bowling lanes and the biggest pool room in Nebraska, where else would you go to enjoy an afternoon or evening? There's a great daily specials like $2 Tuesdays, games of bowling, shoe rentals, draft beers, and tacos, all just $2 each. Have a delicious burger at EJ's Lounge before or after your bowling or pool session, and you'll leave satisfied. Madsen's Bowling and Billiards at 47th and Dudley.
Mosaic is a nonprofit, whole-person healthcare organization that embraces God's call and relentlessly pursues opportunities that empower people with diverse needs to live their best lives. Mosaic in Southeast Nebraska, serving Lincoln and Beatrice, would like to invite you to their monthly Discover the Possibilities tour events. Events are held on the third Wednesday of every month and are a great way to understand Mosaic's mission. To RSVP, please contact Melindy at 402-429-0088 or visit mosaicinfo.org/Southeast Nebraska.
The best time to have your air conditioner serviced is before you really need it. Call Bryant now and schedule your spring air conditioning service check. No matter what brand equipment you have, Bryant's trained technicians will thoroughly clean, inspect, and test to make sure it's ready to cool efficiently when hot weather hits. You'll stay cool and comfortable when you need it most. Just call 467-1111 to schedule your air conditioning check. Bryant Air Conditioning, Heating, Electrical, and Plumbing. We do whatever it takes.
Stop by TCA Outdoor Power on March 22nd and 23rd for an open house and customer appreciation celebration. TCA Outdoor Power is a locally owned business located at 6210 South 57th Street and prides itself on being Lincoln's only elite steel dealership for over 20 years. On March 22nd and 23rd, enjoy 10% off select steel products and up to $350 off on select battery battery tools. Also, if you buy 2 steel batteries, you can double your limited warranty. Give TCA Outdoor Power a call today at 402-420-9424 or visit them for their open house celebration, March 22nd and 23rd.
Imagine a healthier, more active, physically fit version of yourself. If you've been putting off getting into shape, now is the time with the Farrell's Extreme Body Shaping 10-week challenge. Our program combines kickboxing, strength training, and nutrition coaching to help you achieve your fitness goals. And ticket listeners, you can get $150 off the enrollment fee. The next challenge begins on March 23rd. You can get all the info at fxblincoln.com. Don't wait any longer. Farrell's Extreme Body Shaping at 40th and Yankee Hill and 70th and Vine.
You never think cancer will happen to you. I smoked for over 40 years. My doctor recommended that I get annual lung cancer screening. They were able to catch my cancer at stage 1. It's never too late to quit. Even if you're still smoking, you need to ask your doctor about annual lung cancer screening. Just 30 minutes a year could save your life.
Call the Nebraska Tobacco Quit Line, 1-800-QUIT-NOW, 1-800-784-8669. Paid for by Tobacco Free Nebraska. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Are you in the market for a new garage door or need to repair your old one? It's wintertime, and that means snow, wind, and freezing temperatures. All things that can cause sticky locks and damage to your garage door. If you're experiencing any issues with your commercial or residential garage door during the winter months, call Cameron Hall and his team at Doors Plus. Don't be trapped outside in the cold because of a poorly maintained garage door. Call Doors Plus today at 402-590-5800 or visit them online at doorsplusllc.com. Doors Plus, garage doors and more.
93.7 The Ticket, Fox, KFXL weather. Sponsored by John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning.
Your Lincoln forecast for today, we'll see lots of sunshine. It will be breezy and very warm. We'll see a high around 76. Tonight, partly cloudy skies expected with a low around 44. And tomorrow, mainly sunny skies return, and so does the warmth. We'll see a high around 74. I'm meteorologist Kyle Flecker from 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Rashawn Jackson here for Bauer Underground, who has been serving local contractors and utility contractors all across the state since 1997. When you see the black and white trucks, you know the baddest dudes in the business have arrived. Bauer is currently looking for equipment operators, laborers, diesel mechanics, and aerial linemen. Join the brotherhood built on hard work, authentic people, and pedigree of success. Bauer, a family-friendly company who reminds you, go Big Red!
For over 15 years, Integrated Life Choices has empowered individuals with disabilities in Lincoln and throughout Nebraska. They provide comprehensive services from group homes and independent living services to job training, ensuring fulfilling lives for those that they serve. Now, they're inviting you to join their mission. If you're passionate about making a difference in the lives of people with developmental disabilities, explore rewarding career opportunities with them. Learn more about their services and apply today at www.ilc.net. Be a part of Integrated Life Choices, where your work truly changes lives.
My dream was to work in commercial banking, but it required a college degree and I didn't have one. I found out that Doane had classes for adult learners on the Lincoln campus and online. So I earned my bachelor's degree, and 5 months later, I landed my dream job. I decided to continue my education, and now I'm working on my MBA at Doane. For me, the Doane experience has been life-changing.
You're listening to Adam Carriker on The Ticket on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Boom! Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Adam Carriker on The Ticket. I hope you're having a phenomenal Monday. And if you're not, cheer up, ladies and gentlemen. You just enjoyed, hopefully you enjoyed somewhat, un poquito, a little bit, the fastest hour in radio. We got about 5 minutes left here. All right, if you got any questions at all, as always, send them into 402-464-5685. You notice how I slow down when I say the telephone number? I hope people can remember that and send in their questions if they'd like. 402-464-5685. Now, it's interesting because I've been keeping tabs on the college football playoff negotiations as they're going on. Yes, I know we haven't even had one freaking season of the 12-team college football playoff yet, and they're already preparing for the 14-team college football playoff. So here's the deal. Here's how I understand it per folks that I've spoken to, things that I've heard. Okay, the Big Ten and the SEC, they are throwing their weight around. Why? Because they can. And what are you going to do about it? Okay, they're the big dogs. It's the Big Two. Then the next two, which is the Big 12 and ACC, till the ACC no longer exists here in a few years. And then you got everybody else. Okay. Also, for some reason, and Notre Dame still gets to have their cake and eat it too. But here's the deal. The Big 10 and SEC were going to demand what I heard was originally 4 automatic bids every year. And if you do that math, that's 8 slots. Then the ACC gets one, the Big 12 gets one, the power or the group of 5, okay, gets one. That left one at-large spot, one open spot, one wild card spot, whatever the heck you want to call it, which created a real problem, especially if you're a team like Notre Dame. Couldn't care less about Notre Dame, but if Notre Dame gets that slot, it's literally no at-large spots. So what has kind of happened is the Big 10 and SEC, now I'm hearing rumors of 3 automatic spots for each conference, okay? But what they've said is we'll go to 14 teams. And here's why they've done that. Because it's their way of saying to the Big 12 and ACC, we'll give you another slot for each one of your conferences. Otherwise, the Big 10 and ACC, we're pretty much going to take them all. I'm sorry, the Big 10 and SEC, we're pretty much going to take them all. So they're going to 14. That's a proposal. And the Big 10 is saying, we'll take 3 automatic spots now, 3 automatic spots per conference. So that goes 6. Okay. We got the ACC champ, the Big 12 champ. So there's 8. You got the group of 5 top-rated team, which is 9. Okay. And then what they're saying is really, we're going to create those extra 2 slots, go to 14 teams so that the Big 12 can have a guaranteed 2 teams and the ACC can have a guaranteed 2 teams. It was their way of extending somewhat of an olive branch while swinging their weight around because they can, what you can do about it. But what they asked for in return, we get the number 1 and 2 seed every year. Our conference champ, the Big 10 champ, the SEC champ, we get the number 1 and 2 seed every year in the playoff. Now, what I've heard conflicting reports. I have heard that is a no-go, a non-starter, not going to happen. Also, what's the ACC and Big 12 going to do about it? Because the Big 10 and SEC can break away and they can go do their own playoff. Now, right now, at this point in time, the Big 10 and SEC, per the numbers I've heard, the SEC teams are slated to make $23 million a year for the 14-team proposed playoff. The Big 10, because there's an extra 2 teams, you got to remember that, those teams are slated to make $21 million. Big 12 at ACC, I believe the ACC was 13 a year and the Big 12 was 11 a year. I could be wrong on those numbers. Honestly, I didn't pay anywhere near as much attention to them. And then the group of 5 teams, per se, we're going to get somewhere between $1 to $2 million a year. So the gap was huge. Now, the question is, if the Big 10 and SEC break off and do their own playoff, can they still make those kind of numbers? Because now you're excluding a ton of schools out and a ton of fan bases who no longer will watch. But you get a much bigger slice of the pie. So that's really what it's coming down to. How can the Big 10 and SEC make more money? And if people think it's dirty pool, you're not wrong. It's also business. That's what business is. Okay? People are going to do what's best for business, and they're going to swing their weight around if they can, because what you're going to do about it, it's called leverage, called negotiations. Okay? And they've only got a week or 2 with which to really figure this out, because then the ESPN TV deal has to be figured out and negotiated, and several other TV deals have to be figured out and negotiated. That's the rumors that I'm hearing right now when it comes to college football playoff, and I'll keep you updated as we go forward. Okay, that's what's on the table. The automatic 1 and 2 seeds going to the Big 10 and SEC champs are a no-go as far as everyone else is concerned. Also, the Big 10 and SEC are saying, well, cool, we'll go off and do our own thing. Good luck to you. Nobody's going to watch your little playoff. And so that's where the impasse is at the moment. A couple of questions that have come in. One from Todd. Who is your favorite for the NCAA tournament? Are you a 1 or multiple bracket guy? Oh, 1. I'm too competitive. It's the same reason I don't do fantasy football. I spend too much freaking time on these things. I really do. So I can't do more than 1. I do 1 to say that I did 1 and have fun, usually do it with the family. Oh, I tell you what, Purdue is the team that pops into my mind because they have so many returners. They have the player of the year, at least from a year ago, Zach Edey. I hearken back to when Virginia lost and was upset early on by the 16th seed, next year came back and won. You know, I don't have a whole lot of confidence. I haven't done a whole lot of research into who my top favorites are yet. That's the team that pops into my head at this moment in time. I may have a different answer as we get the actual NCAA brackets. Number 2, last question. Did you hang out with the basketball players when you played at Nebraska? Admittedly, not a ton. I was so busy doing football stuff with football guys and going to class most of the time. It was like, that's where my focus was. I actually wish I would have spent more time with those guys, okay? And even just athletes in general. It's one reason I try to spend so much time talking about every sport and not just being just football focused. Number 1, I am a sport connoisseur. I was a multi-sport athlete, 3-4 sports all the way through high school. I have an eclectic love of all sports, but that's one reason I try to do that as well. I got much love and respect for all Nebraska sports across the board. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me. Have a phenomenal rest of your Monday and a great week. Until next time, go big Red Nose. Remember, throw the bug.